state income tax, protect girls' sports, and put child molesters away for life with no parole. I'm Chad Bianco, and I'm running for governor because California needs a leader tough enough to stand up for us.
Chad Bianco for governor.
We have a community safety crisis and an insurance crisis in the state of California. My name is Merritt, and I'm running for California Insurance Commissioner to fix both problems. I lost my home in the Pacific Palisades fire. My community burned down because our elected officials ignored our safety. My community still isn't out of the starting gate on rebuild. Lots where families used to live lie empty. I'm not a politician. I'm a Disney and Amazon executive with expertise in tech innovation and law. I served as the top lawyer and the head of security at the Disneyland Resort. I've already taken on State Farm as a consumer advocate before the Department of Insurance. I have a concrete plan for making our community safer and fixing our insurance crises. When insurance companies fail even one of us, we all lose. Elect me, and I'll use the customer-centric skills I learned at Amazon and Disney to make your community safer and bring you the insurance you need at a cost you can afford.
Merritt Farren is the safety and insurance reform warrior we need. He'll use his Disney Amazon exec skills and his lived experience as a fire survivor to get us the innovation we need in insurance. No other candidate has his combination of skill and lived experience. Not even close. Vote for Merritt Farren, June 2nd. Merritt Farren for Insurance Commissioner.
In just 3 days, Chris Hansen and I saved 51 kids from child predators. But today, California politicians are making it harder to put these predators behind bars and to keep them there. They are actually giving more resources to criminals than they are to our students. We don't need pickleball and film studios in our prisons. We need policies that keep child predators away from our kids. Soft on crime politicians created this mess. I'm Sheriff Chad Bianco as your governor. I'll fix it.
California's budget has tripled in recent years, placing those financial chains and commitments on you and your family. Are our schools 3 times better? Are our roads? Is gas more affordable, or are groceries? America was founded on tax rebellion, yet we pay income tax, property tax, sales tax, tolls, fees, registration, tickets, and permits, making your life more expensive every day. I'm David Serpa. I'm running to restore Main Street, homeownership, and a thriving California economy that works for every Californian.
Parent. The whole reason I got into this is because of the state overreach from the State Water Board, the California Air Resource Board, and every other government agency that comes after the farmers. And every farmer has the same exact story as me. And I'm up here fighting for every one of those farmers, truckers, fishermen, small business owner, you name it, I'm your voice, and I'm going to keep fighting for that. We have to flip these agencies to where our fishing industry, they can take care of the fish. We need people that are fishermen on those boards. We need people that are on the California Air Resource Board. We need truckers on those boards. Every farm agency there is, we need farmers on those boards. State Water Resource Board needs farmers on there because every person on there are unelected officials that have no clue what the industry needs and what is really going on. And that's what I'm fighting for, and that's what I'm going to keep.
I'm Sheriff Chad Bianco. Typical politicians don't have the guts to tackle our big problems. As sheriff, I've deported drug traffickers. I've locked up murderers and those who prey on our children and our seniors. As your governor, I'll eliminate the state income tax, protect girls' sports, and put child molesters away for life with no parole. I'm Chad Bianco, and I'm running for governor because California needs a leader tough enough to stand up for us.
Chad Bianco for governor.
We have a community safety crisis and an insurance crisis in the state of California. My name is Merritt, and I'm running for California Insurance Commissioner to fix both problems. I lost my home in the Pacific Palisades fire. My community burned down because our elected officials ignored our safety. My community still isn't out of the starting gate on rebuild. Lots where families used to live lie empty. I'm not a politician. I'm a Disney and Amazon executive with expertise in tech innovation and law. I served as the top lawyer and the head of security at the Disneyland Resort. I've already taken on State Farm as a consumer advocate before the Department of Insurance. I have a concrete plan for making our community safer and fixing our insurance crises. When insurance companies fail, even one of us, we all lose. Elect me, and I'll use the customer-centric skills I learned at Amazon and Disney to make your community safer and bring you the insurance you need at a cost you can afford.
Merritt Farren is the safety and insurance reform warrior we need. He'll use his Disney Amazon exec skills and his lived experience as a fire survivor to get us the innovation we need in insurance. No other candidate has his combination of skill and lived experience. Not even close. Vote for Merritt Farren, June 2nd. Merritt Farren for Insurance Commissioner.
In just 3 days, Chris Hansen and I saved 51 kids from child predators. But today, California politicians are making it harder to put these predators behind bars and to keep them there. They are actually giving more resources to criminals than they are to our students. We don't need pickleball and film studios in our prisons. We need policies that keep child predators away from our kids. Soft on crime politicians created this mess. I'm Sheriff Chad Bianco as your governor. I'll fix it.
California's budget has tripled in recent years, placing those financial chains and commitments on you and your family. Are our schools 3 times better? Are our roads? Is gas more affordable, or are groceries? America was founded on tax rebellion, yet we pay income tax, property tax, sales tax, tolls, fees, registration, tickets, and permits, making your life more expensive every day. I'm David Serpa. I'm running to restore Main Street, homeownership, and a thriving California economy that works for every Californian.
Parent. The whole reason I got into this is because of the state overreach from the State Water Board, the California Air Resource Board, and every other government agency that comes after the farmers. And every farmer has the same exact story as me. And I'm up here fighting for every one of those farmers, truckers, fishermen, small business owner, you name it, I'm your voice, and I'm going to keep fighting for that. We have to flip these agencies to where our fishing industry, they can take care of the fish. We need people that are fishermen on those boards. We need people that are on the California Air Resource Board. We need truckers on those boards. Every farm agency there is, we need farmers on those boards. State Water Resource Board needs farmers on there because every person on there are unelected officials that have no clue what the industry needs and what is really going on. And that's what I'm fighting for, and that's what I'm going to keep
I'm Sheriff Chad Bianco. Typical politicians don't have the guts to tackle our big problems. As sheriff, I've deported drug traffickers. I've locked up murderers and those who prey on our children and our seniors. As your governor, I'll eliminate the state income tax, protect girls' sports, and put child molesters away for life with no parole. I'm Chad Bianco, and I'm running for governor because California needs a leader tough enough to stand up for us.
Chad Bianco for governor.
We have a community safety crisis and an insurance crisis in the state of California. My name is Merritt, and I'm running for California Insurance Commissioner to fix both problems. I lost my home in the Pacific Palisades fire. My community burned down because our elected officials ignored our safety. My community still isn't out of the starting gate on rebuild. Lots where families used to live lie empty. I'm not a politician. I'm a Disney and Amazon executive with expertise in tech innovation and law. I served as the top lawyer and the head of security at the Disneyland Resort. I've already taken on State Farm as a consumer advocate before the Department of Insurance. I have a concrete plan for making our community safer and fixing our insurance crisis. When insurance companies fail even one of us, we all lose. Elect me, and I'll use the customer-centric skills I learned at Amazon and Disney to make your community safer and bring you the insurance you need at a cost you can afford.
Merritt Farren is the safety and insurance reform warrior we need. He'll use his Disney Amazon exec skills and his lived experience as a fire survivor to get us the innovation we need in insurance. No other candidate has his combination of skill and lived experience. Not even close. Vote for Merritt Farren, June 2nd. Merritt Farren for Insurance Commissioner.
In just 3 days, Chris Hansen and I saved 51 kids from child predators. But today, California politicians are making it harder to put these predators behind bars and to keep them there. They are actually giving more resources to criminals than they are to our students. We don't need pickleball and film studios in our prisons. We need policies that keep child predators away from our kids. Soft on crime politicians created this mess. I'm Sheriff Chad Bianco as your governor. I'll fix it.
California's budget has tripled in recent years, placing those financial chains and commitments on you and your family. Are our schools 3 times better? Are our roads? Is gas more affordable, or are groceries? America was founded on tax rebellion, yet we pay income tax, property tax, sales tax, tolls, fees, registration, tickets, and permits, making your life more expensive every day. I'm David Serpa. I'm running to restore Main Street, homeownership, and a thriving California economy that works for every Californian.
Parent. The whole reason I got into this is because of the state overreach from the State Water Board, the California Air Resource Board, and every other government agency that comes after the farmers. And every farmer has the same exact story as me. And I'm up here fighting for every one of those farmers, truckers, fishermen, small business owner, you name it, I'm your voice, and I'm going to keep fighting for that. We have to flip these agencies to where our fishing industry, they can take care of the fish. We need people that are fishermen on those boards. We need people that are on the California Air Resource Board. We need truckers on those boards. Every farm agency there is, we need farmers on those boards. State Water Resource Board needs farmers on there because every person on there are unelected officials that have no clue what the industry needs and what is really going on. And that's what I'm fighting for, and that's what I'm going to keep
I'm Sheriff Chad Bianco. Typical politicians don't have the guts to tackle our big problems. As sheriff, I've deported drug traffickers. I've locked up murderers and those who prey on our children and our seniors. As your governor, I'll eliminate the state income tax, protect girls' sports, and put child molesters away for life with no parole. I'm Chad Bianco, and I'm running for governor because California needs a leader tough enough to stand up for us.
Chad Bianco for governor.
Red glare, reppin' USA, so she go crazy. Mom's bursting in there with the rocket red glare, reppin' USA, so she go crazy. Wait for it, 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 wait for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Latino Free Minds. I am your host, Gio. And I am here joined with Carina Powers and Vincent Romo. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Oh, doing wonderful. Thanks for having us, Gio. This is going to be a lot of fun.
So what do you have in store for us today, Gio?
We've been having a few technical difficulties, and I think Gio, it's now hitting Gio. But Carina, great to see you. And I think Gio, can you hear us now?
I don't think
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how we got a man on the moon, considering like we can't we can't get this going here. But for those out there who don't know, Carina Powers is a very important woman in the state of California. She is with the Republican Hispanic National Assembly. Is that correct?
The Republican National Hispanic Assembly, yes.
Yes, very cool. I think you guys have one of the coolest Republican logos of any of the clubs out there. I'm a nerd for that kind of stuff.
Awesome. We try. So we've been doing a lot of the work. I don't know if Gio can hear us now, but I'm going to take a. Can you? Perfect.
Yes, now I can. Thank you guys so much for helping me out today. I'm really excited because I received the phone call yesterday that we were going to have some exciting guests that would be joining us, and some excitement as we lead into tomorrow. Tomorrow is a special day. It is election day. We have all been voting. Hopefully everybody's gone out to vote. I always tell everybody to vote their values, and I hope that they were able to convince their friends and family to get out, of course, those that are able to vote. But without further ado, I would like to bring some of our guests on that are available at the moment. We have a candidate for the state treasurer and a candidate for insurance commission, David Serpa and Merritt Farren.
Thanks, guys.
Gio, good to see you. Good to see you, Carina.
Welcome,
good to see
guys.
you, Vinny.
Thanks so much for having us on. It is an exciting night indeed. Night before the big day.
Gio, that Latino Free Minds introduction goes hard.
Oh, thank you.
That goes hard. That looked good.
So guys, it's been a long road to here. I would love for you guys to tell the listeners how this road has been. I know, David, you've been in this for a little over a year. You started out running for governor. So how has this road been for you?
Yeah, no, it's been a long one, and I've been in this for 4 years because I ran for Congress and was the Republican nominee for Congress before that. And for the people that are looking at it from the outside, I might seem a little bit chaotic when it comes to running for, governor and then running for treasurer. But I've been very involved in trying to make sure that we have an executive branch that we can be proud of here in the state of California, that we can get behind, that can get to work on day one. Because one of the biggest problems that we have is we sort of get ready for a participation trophy every single year without really offering up real candidates with real solutions. And then we lose by 20%. We're shocked by that. And so it was a matter of figuring out where I fit in during this election cycle. And for me, managing the people's finances, being a good steward of our wealth, and getting us out of a deficit and into a surplus makes a lot of sense for me. Getting to work to represent the average person, manage that $162 billion in daily assets, and the $1.113 trillion that comes through California tax revenue every year. So that's where I'm coming from, is going at it from a team approach, going at it from the same way that the state of Texas did in 1994 when they flipped an entire state red. That's what I wanted to do. But unfortunately, we didn't have the kind of support coming from the California Republican Party that we needed to be effective as an opposition party here in the state of California.
Awesome.
Merritt, how's your journey been?
Yeah, no, my journey has been comparatively short, right? So as many of your listeners may know, I got involved only after I lost my home and my entire community in the Pacific Palisades fire, right? A disaster that happened because of massive incompetence by people who never ever should have been elected to the big positions they were elected into. And I looked at the other candidates, and I didn't expect to run. I was hoping that when I spoke to them, and I met with most of them, spoke to them with other members of the Palisades, that I would conclude that they were going to be able to handle the insurance problems that we've got, which are huge. And I concluded, and my friends and others I was talking to, these candidates, concluded that they simply were not. They just don't have the credentials. So look, I'm here for that one reason only, and this is why I'm also happy to stand with David and with others on the top of this ticket who are here with competence and with big ideas and with a desire to do just one thing, which is just get this state that we love back to where we want it to be. Nothing more, nothing less than that. Nothing here to, none of us is here. I know David isn't here to serve anyone else other than the people of California. He's not here to serve lobbyists. He's not here to continue some sort of a political career. He's in it out of service. And I feel this exactly the same way. And that's what I believe is going to propel us over the top tomorrow. I expect us to win. I expect this group to win. I expect Sheriff Bianco, who will hopefully join us soon, to win as well, and David Collenberg. These are people who want nothing more than the best for this state, with coming from honest discussion of the kind that we need to have to get there.
Merritt, I have a question for you. As you know, I travel throughout the entire state of California, so I get to hear directly from the people a lot of topics of conversation, but one topic that I hear often from the people that I'm not hearing very much conversation from is the insurance. Insurance, and then you're running for state commissioner for insurance. As we've had several fires here in my county. I'm in Monterey County. We had 3 fires kind of wrapping around Monterey, and people, that was back in 2023, I believe, and people still haven't been able to build. They're still dealing with insurance issues. What caused this crisis to be with the insurances? And it's not just for homeowners, it's also for auto insurances.
It's for auto insurance, it's for workers' comp, which is causing huge problems for businesses, especially small business owners, but for all businesses. And look, we've got a health insurance crisis. We all know that, right? So the Commissioner of Insurance has a massive amount of influence over home and structure insurance, huge amount of influence over auto, huge amount of influence over workers' comp, less over health. But I am anxious to jump into all 3 of those areas. And look, one of the candidates who I for my role, who I'm running against, a Democrat, when I met with him ahead, I asked your question, how did we get here? How did we get to this situation where we have a full-on crisis? It is a crisis, right? People can't get insurance. And if they can, it is way too expensive. And then when you have a problem, they don't pay out. And at the same time, we have also quite extraordinarily ended up in a situation where it's not working for the insurance companies either. And the good ones are leaving the state, and the ones who perhaps are less good seem to be the ones hanging around. So how do we get there? So, this gentleman, whose initials are Ben Allen, said, Merritt, insurance is a tough thing to solve. And politicians don't like to take on tough problems, because if they do, then they're going to fail, and then their name will be associated with a failed effort. So do the math, right? The bigger the problem we have in California, what he's telling me is, the less our existing politicians will want to take it on, and that is so not okay, right? And by the way, when he explained that, he didn't say to me, and by the way, Merritt, that's not okay. He just said that's how it is.
Yeah, it's sort of a lot of accepting these things for the way that they are. That is what has been driving me so nuts. For the last 2 years, I've been trying to find people to run for these different positions, and it's been next to impossible because people who work in the private sector don't want to work in government and make significantly less money when they're good at their job. I guarantee you, Merritt, it will be a pay cut for him if he gets elected. Living in the Palisades, which is why living in the Palisades is so important, because you have skin in the game. You lost something. And so the job of the insurance commissioner, when I was going around the state of California trying to find people to run, before I found out about you, Merritt, and why I was so excited to hear about you, is their job is to represent us to the insurance companies. That's and right. Then also to represent, to make it possible for insurance to be economically viable in the state of California, which represents about 7 to 9% of any healthy economy. And so the Palisades burning, the Paradise fires, the 86 counts of manslaughter with PG&E, the way that victims got paid with stock from PG&E, all of the different politicians that are being funded by PG&E, including Gavin Newsom himself. And so when I was looking at the California Fair Plan and the 15,000 buildings, businesses, structures, churches, homes that burned to the ground, I started realizing that it was really designed for insolvency. They dropped the retardant on the ground, which destroyed the soil, which made it impossible to rebuild. And then they tie up all of this different stuff in high density housing. They try to make it impossible for people to rebuild in their own properties. And so in my opinion, it really takes 4 different positions to revitalize and breathe life into our economic infrastructure so that we can build here again as Californians, not just high density housing developers. And that's the insurance commissioner, who's going to make it possible for us to build, the attorney general, who's going to take on a lot of the bureaucratic red tape and legislation to make it possible for us to build, the controller, who's going to make it sure that our money is being spent effectively and efficiently, and the treasurer to manage those lands and those funds to make sure that we're rebuilding properly and placing power back into the counties and into the localities, and not just handled out of Sacramento. And so I know that question wasn't directed at me personally, but it's so important that these groups, people realize the way that the executive works together, because that's how we save the state of California, is by getting an executive branch. Then we don't need the Senate. We don't need the Assembly. We can literally get to work every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and fix and restore California and make it what it was, which was an economy that served the lower and middle class, made it possible for people to scale the economic class system, but also didn't put Main Street out of business in order to serve Wall Street.
Yeah, and well said, David. And look, I couldn't agree with that more. That it's going to be a team effort. So there's a lot that the insurance commissioner can do directly, and I would jump straight in. There's a lot of executive action. We need to reform a whole lot of bad regs. Harder to reform the laws if we can't get the legislature to support that, but the regs that govern much of insurance are directly under the insurance commissioner. We can clean those up, get new companies into the state, and bring people the choice they have and make it better for consumers. And one thing I would add, David, the other piece here that's so important that I'm excited about, working with Sheriff Bianco on and Collenberg is safety, right? You point out, Carina, Monterey's had these fires. These are not new, and yet we have no minimum mandated standards for safety, fire safety within our communities, right? My community burned down because there was not adequate water for the fire hydrants. How is that possible? So I would jump straight in, and I know I would get support from David the sheriff and from David Collenberg, and we'll put out minimum safety standards for cities and counties to follow, right? That should have already been done. And by the way, one of the reasons we have a huge insurance crisis right now is after the Palisades burned down, the insurance companies and the reinsurance companies behind them, who actually provide the funding that the insurance companies need when they write policies for you and me, those reinsurance companies are saying, wait a minute, we did risk analysis for wildfire. We didn't do risk analysis for entire communities being flattened with no firemen or women in sight and with the fire hydrants empty, right? So, and the fact that the Democrats didn't, within weeks of the burn down of Palisades and Altadena, come out with those safety standards, just if, obviously for the citizens, but also just to assure the insurance companies, right? To bring them back. Because right now they're not going to speak up and say it, but they're holding back on California. They're going to wait for us to get our act together. So we've got to do that. And remember, too, another enormous, point that says that these folks need to be out of power is that the Democrats have not brought to bear an actual analysis of what went wrong, right? It's people call it a cover-up. It probably really should be called a cover-up. We only have the information we have because of the lawsuits. That is not acceptable.
Well, I think what you're talking about, Merritt and David, I don't think people understand the influence of these executive positions. So can you kind of break down what the role of the treasurer is and what the role of the insurance commissioner is? Because the Democrat side of the party, of the aisle, they just recycle politicians after their 8 years, and they just move position to position, but none of them are actually qualified. So can you give us kind of the breakdown of these positions so the voters can understand what the function of this part of government is actually about?
Yeah, sure. And, the truth is, you've got Fiona Ma, who's our current treasurer, running for lieutenant governor. And you've got our lieutenant governor, Eleni Kounalakis, running for treasurer. And they all just sort of swap positions and move around and find a new position to get paid. So there are 8 positions in the executive branch. There's the governor, the lieutenant governor, the secretary of state, the attorney general, the treasurer, the controller, the superintendent of public instruction, and the insurance commissioner. And so the job of the governor, everybody knows that. The job of the lieutenant governor is you're essentially like the vice president of California. You're the second in command. There are boards and whatnot that you oversee, but that's essentially your job. And then you've got the secretary of state. They've got 5 different divisions that they manage. Business management, public records, but also elections. And so elections are sort of the big thing that the Secretary of State is known for. You have the controller, whose job it is to find the waste, fraud, and abuse, to audit government spending, which of course isn't happening under Malia Cohen. And then you have the attorney general, who they're the chief law enforcement officer for the state of California. Their job is to bring justice to the state of California, to fight lawsuits on behalf of the people, on behalf of the state. So if the controller finds some waste, fraud, and abuse, they can't prosecute it. They have to refer it to the attorney general for prosecution. Do you want to explain the insurance, Merritt?
Sure, absolutely. So look, so the insurance commissioner oversees a huge department, perhaps too big, look at that, but a big department that, among other things, includes a fraud division, right? So there's a group there that specifically goes after, and these are fantastic people. They're essentially law enforcement officials who have the ability to go in and investigate fraud, because when any fraud happens, all of us end up paying for that. So that's a key role. The insurance commissioner is also responsible for rate approvals for insurance, especially in homeowner and structure insurance. And there, what we've seen is that the insurance commissioner that we currently have has, again, made this big mess of regulations that cause both enormous delays in having the rates approved, but the rates are also historically have not been based upon what you and I would think they would be based upon, which is A, the real cost of the insurance company, and B, what is the actual service that the customer is going to get.
Correct. So your insurance commissioner really represents the people.
That's right.
In all assets of insurance. That's car insurance, home insurance, health insurance, fire insurance. It's everything. So it's about 7 and 9% of the economy of the state of California, and any healthy economy runs through the insurance office. Then you have the public instruction, superintendent of public instruction. Their job is elementary school, middle school, high school, and the upper schools, which includes our junior college system, our state college system, and our university system in the state of California, as well as aftercare systems and social service systems for adults with disabilities and the mentally handicapped. And then as well as your final position, which is the state treasurer's office, our job is to get us not just out of a deficit, but into a surplus, to be a good steward of the people's wealth, resources, finances, and public utilities, essentially our oil, our lithium, our uranium, our public land, our lumber, and basically get the economy firing on all cylinders so that the power of the state was never in the bureaucrats' hand in Sacramento. It should be in the localities, in the counties, in the cities, because people know what's best for them in the Palisades that live in the Palisades. People in Oakland know what's best for the people that live in Oakland, in Fresno, in El Dorado County, And we've just gotten to a point to where we have this big overarching government body that no one pays attention to, which is really running out of control and running up our deficit and bearing any chance of us getting back into a surplus due to the fiscal irresponsibility that's coming out of Sacramento. And that's 100% coming out of the executive branch, but it's also these Senate bills and Assembly bills that continue to drive up our debt.
That's right.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that people don't really look into when they're voting is that a lot of these poor leaders lead to increased costs, right?
Correct.
In the case for insurance, if you're not clearing the brush, now that's a liability. Now everybody's insurance goes up, and that makes it harder for everybody because now you have more people falling under the FAIR plan, which
Correct.
puts too much stress on that. And so it's a rolling ball of moss that continues to get bigger and bigger. How do you guys plan to decentralize the government? Because I know you guys are small R Republicans. I know both of you. What could you do within your particular positions to decentralize the government and push government back down to the county level?
Sure. So, and if you don't mind, I'll just take that really quick, Merritt, and then I'll pass it off to you. But people don't realize the economic change that we're being built, and it's through simple things like what we were just talking about with our insurance. We talk about how great Sheriff Bianco is for the top of the ticket because of there being physical freedom. There's two different types of freedom. Physical freedom, which is your safety and your well-being. That has to do with insurance. That has to do with the governor's race. That has to do with electing a sheriff. The other part is financial freedom. Freedom is physical freedom, the ability to, have physical sovereignty, the ability to control your body without being attacked. But it's also financial freedom, the ability to do with your time what you want to do with your time, to be able to put some money in your gas tank and get up and go. And so we don't realize the way that these financial chains are being crafted for us. Look no further than your mortgage statement. There are four things in your mortgage statement: your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And people don't realize when they're being sold a 30-year loan that America doesn't believe in home ownership anymore like we did 50, 60, 70 years ago. We believe in home loans, which is why you don't have people buying a house for 3 times their annual wages from the local bank, and then, being able to pay it off in about 3, 4, 5 years. You have people that are buying homes for $900,000 with a 30-year loan, which costs $1.2 million in just interest. And those loans are amortized. And people don't realize with an amortized loan that you're predominantly paying towards the interest for the first 8, 9 years of the loan before eventually your principal starts coming down. So you buy a house, you're in that house for 7 or 8 years, you go to sell it, and you say, why didn't my principal go down? And it's because you've been paying towards the interest. And that's the same way that government works with things like bonds, is we pay so much just to service the debt. And so you've got your principal, you've got your interest, and then you've got your taxes. So if you're in a neighborhood with a 2% tax rate, where maybe you've got some Mello-Roos or whatnot, 2% on a $900,000 home is $18,000 annually in taxes cooked into your mortgage payment. You don't even see it. It's just coming directly off the top. And then finally is insurance, if you can even get it. And a lot of people are being squeezed into the FAIR plan, but they're being squeezed out of, most importantly, is family ranches, family compounds, family, areas where you could build 3 homes on one lot. Because ultimately what the state of California is an agrarian state, which, you have agrarian justice, agrarian freedom, the ability to feed yourself, feed your family, feed your community, and make a little bit of money on the side. And what that creates is generational wealth. It's hard to have generational wealth without the generations. And you have a state government that's making it impossible to develop the land that you want to develop the way that you see fit on how to develop it. And so what I would do as the state treasurer, and working hand in hand with the rest of the executive branch, is return the oversight for restrictions and whatnot to the localities, to the counties. So then that way you don't have Sacramento bureaucrats determining what you can and cannot build on your house, on your land, but you're deciding what is going to happen there on the county level. But holy smokes, we got a David Collenberg joining us.
Yeah, how about that?
This is who people are really here to see. The wingnut himself.
How's it going? Hopefully,
David.
I don't know how long this is going to last. I've been trying for 45 minutes to get my phone working to be on here with you guys.
Let's talk to the wingnut while he's here.
The golden wingnut.
Golden wingnut.
There you go.
I got my T-shirt coming, my golden wingnut T-shirt.
Did
Why
you
are people
order
calling
one?
you a
You didn't
wingnut,
order
David
one.
Collenberg?
That's a good question.
Oh, okay. So our good friend Carl DeMaio decided to go on a Facebook Live and talk about the candidates. And so he was going through the lieutenant governor candidates. He said Abby Lynch, he said David Fennell, and then he gets to David Collenberg and he says he's a wingnut nutcase, and then he says Gloria Romero. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to roll with it, So I was like, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just start calling myself that. And people love it. So, they're like, we love it that you roll yourself. I'm like, why not? And, but it really showed me that obviously he's nervous about me. So I'm obviously doing some good work, because I wouldn't do that and single me out if I wasn't.
Yeah, your audio is cutting out a little bit, but he's obviously nervous because he's talking about you, and he talked about me. I'm certifiably insane. I just want to figure out who has that certificate so that I can figure out what's wrong with me, because I've been trying to figure it out. And I did not embrace it the way that Collenberg did and get a golden wingnut T-shirt designed. I went upstairs and I had myself a good cry for a while because he really hurt my feelings. I had to call up Gio and Vinny. The reason why I like to hang out with a bunch of Mexicans is because they always make me feel good about myself when I call them. I call my white guy friends and they're like, David, man up. It's not a big deal. Like, stop being so gay or whatever. And it's just like, you call a Mexican friend and they're like, they start talking to you like they're your grandma. They're like, mijo, or mija, or whatever. Like, you're good. Using Spanish pet names for you. They start talking you up, telling you how capable and talented you are. And so that's why I like to call Big Vinny and call Gio and, call Silvis. Is sometimes you just got to get talked up by your Mexican friends. Hey, man.
Yeah, and I tried to make it.
That's
I tried
what
to
we
make
need.
him go
We
to
all
Casa
need that.
Vega. I tried to make him go to Casa Vega, and he didn't want to go. So that's what we do, right? We go and we eat food and we have fun, and then we make fun of each other. That's kind of what.
Well, that's what we all need. Listen. I love that, David. I love that you mentioned bringing down the state debt, right? Because These sort of things are the things that none of us really focus on, but that debt is coming straight out of our pocketbooks. It's part of what is making California unaffordable, right? And all of it's the spending on debt that we want to get rid of, and then of course the spending on other programs that are not building out the infrastructure on which all of us can thrive. That's what we need, right?
That's right.
In my particular role, we're going to strip away the regulations that are keeping the businesses out. So you talk about sort of pushing things out locally. That's a little bit harder to do with my role, but here's what we will do. We will make sure that we set the regulations up so the California companies, right? We've got the best technology companies in the world here, the best startups here in the world, and I've spoken to some of them who want to get going in insurance. We're going to enable them to get going in insurance so that they can come up with the new insurance products. We're going to work with them to write the regs so that they can bring out the products that are going to be new, and then they're going to roll out nationwide. And those are going to be built right here in California, right? We're going to get engineers to work, and we're going to get the rest of the teams to work on those startups, let big companies jump into if they want to. That's how we're going to get people working across the state, which we need to do, right? And get us all better insurance along the way.
Well, I want to make sure everybody knows we are $30 billion in the hole. And we are falling further into debt as well. And our economy is basically on stilts, hoping that AI pans out. We're beholden to Wall Street. So what you're saying is, if you could pull back some of that liability and put that money back into the treasury, so to speak, I mean, we can bring all of this back together and make things cheaper overall. Is what you're both are saying.
And essentially it makes the economy work better for everybody on a local level. Because the thing is, it's just like you said, the governor's budget for 27-28 is actually projecting a $22 billion deficit, and that's after raining $12 billion from the rainy day fund. Which, if there's something that California needs, it's a rainy day fund. And so that has real repercussions. And one of those things is that, CalPERS and STRS has $265 billion in unfunded liabilities, which means it's 72% funded, which means 28% unfunded in promised benefits, which has real repercussions. And there's an investment pool that we invest in order to make it so that PERS and STRS has money for the retirements and the teachers and the firefighters and the police officers that are paying into it. And 98% of the CalPERS and STRS investment fund is invested outside of the state of California. And people don't realize that. We're not investing in our future here for Californians. And furthermore, the state treasurer's office manages $162 billion in daily assets, which only yield a $7.5 billion return. And so we're not managing our assets in a way that creates a surplus. We're not spending on government in a way that says, hey, why would I spend $2 if I could spend $1 and get a better ROI? And then we're also not looking to the future. We have about $9.8 billion in bond debt. In our bond debt, we spend billions of dollars, about $9.8 billion to service our bond debt every year, and that goes up about $500 million annually. And so what I would like to do as the treasurer is take a more proactive approach, which is grading every Assembly bill and Senate bill that comes out of the Senate, that comes out of the Assembly, and grading every proposition with a fiscal rating so that people understand whether or not the bill makes fiscal sense for Californians, or whether or not we're going to continue to do what Eisenhower warned against, which is to mortgage tomorrow in order to pay for today, which he said will leave our grandchildren morally, financially, and spiritually bankrupt in the land that their forefathers established.
Absolutely. Listen, I come from a very middle-class background. I was born in your hood there in Monterey, in Fort Ord Military Hospital. And, that's still where my heart lies. I want to see ordinary, all working families, right, need to be able to make the ends meet. And there are two pieces to affordability. One is we've got to get costs down in the state. Insurance is a big part of that now. Didn't used to be, it's a huge part of it now. But the other piece of affordability is how much we all make. And we are chasing businesses out of the state right? I was at a campaign event a week ago and sat down with a very nice gentleman who graduated from Cal State Long Beach 30 years ago. And when he came out, he had multiple job offers from good companies that took him actually on a tour across the country. Even before they fully gave him an offer, they paid for that. That is not what our graduates are facing today in this state. And that's a direct consequence of the mistakes that we've been making in Sacramento.
Yeah, we should all be pissed off about it. And,
Yeah.
I've got two kids that are graduating from high school this year. They're graduating from high school. They've got their ceremonies this weekend. We've got family and friends stopping by our house for open house this weekend. And they are not entering into the same economy that I entered into in 2003 when I graduated. And we should be pissed off about it. And the thing is I'm running again. I'm 41 years old. I'm no spring chicken, but I'm the youngest person in my race by over 20 years. Every other person in my race is in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. I want people who've got skin in the game. I mean, we talk about this stuff really at the 10,000 foot angle. And I see in the chat that people are saying that they're nervous about Serpa because Serpa knows his facts. You're absolutely freaking right. I know my facts. I'm dialed in and I want to take on the system. I want to take on the pork, the waste, fraud, and abuse, the NGOs, the nonprofits, because these are the systems that are being propped up and that are benefiting the Republicans and the Democrats that are in office while our farms dry up, which makes our groceries go up. While they shut down our oil refineries and our oil drilling operations, while our cost at the pump goes up, while they shut down the San Onofre nuclear power plant and they get ready to shut down Diablo Canyon, while our energy bills go up. While they stop building and they stop developing and they build red tape, and while the cost of housing goes up. So all of this stuff has real repercussions, and we pay for it when we go to the grocery store. And everything costs more because gas costs more. When you've got to put food back for your children, when you can't go drive through McDonald's because you can't afford fast food for your kids, when you've got to choose between paying your mortgage payment and paying for groceries, or you've got to walk to the gas pump, and then you go to the gas pump and you decide whether or not you're going to put in 4 gallons because you get 20 miles to the gallon, and you need that 80 gallons so that you could go on a road trip, a round trip. And it's that old joke from the Kings of Comedy. How much are we putting in? Just enough for the trip that we're going on. We're tired. We're exhausted. Our children don't have the same financial opportunities that they had. When I graduated from high school, lived in Section 8 housing for 5 years, graduated from high school homeless. I still believe that I could do anything that I wanted to do when I grew up. I could be anything that I wanted to be. Our kids now are trying to decide, how can I live in my car for a few years so that I could save up money so that I could start a business? They're like thinking about these crazy things because they realize that they're playing a rigged game. It's like that end of the Monopoly game. They entered the Monopoly game when all of the houses and hotels and all the property was bought up. And they're like, how is this not completely and totally rigged against us? Why should we play this game at all? And that's
which is not helpful to their morale, right? And so we need to change that. Look, I remain an optimist. I love this state too much not to be. Mm-hmm. And we are too inventive and too creative, but we do have to work on it. And we've got to clean it up. And, all of those things that David's just referring to, which you guys are all intimately familiar with in terms of driving up our costs, are also things that are driving businesses out because they're saying the cost of living is too high for my employees here. So I'm going to pack it up and go to a state that's cheaper, right? So it all comes back around to that. So we've got to focus on getting costs down and getting costs for our businesses down, getting taxes down for our businesses to keep them here and let them grow.
Agreed. And that's everywhere, Merritt. I was in Kern County, and some of these main streets, look like they've been hit by a war. I went up to Humboldt, and they were auctioning off the local mall because so many of the businesses went under in there that they couldn't keep it open. Out in Sacramento, the Sunrise Mall is getting turned into a sports industrial complex, and that's after sitting empty for years. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what's happening on Main Street. And it's that sort of that 1984 quote by George Orwell, where it's, the last and final order of the party was this, to deny the evidence of your eyes and your ears. and this was their final and best command, or final and last command. And that's sort of where we're at right now. They're asking you to deny what you're seeing, deny what you're hearing when you're, when you're listening to your kids, deny what you're seeing when you're looking out the car window, when you're driving through your community, and deny that Democrats have absolutely destroyed the state from the top to the bottom, on all the way throughout.
Yeah, they've gotten way off track, and we need to bring it back on track, and we need to do so urgently. Absolutely.
Well, I think that's very important too. That's one of the things, or one of the reasons why I like Chad Bianco over some of the other candidates, is because he's lived here for so long and he's seen it devolve. When I was a kid, you'd drive down the freeways, you go down the 101, there was no tagging on the walls. There was no weeds growing everywhere. Things were manicured, things were nice. And it made a better environment of California. And now you go and billboards are destroyed, and there's really a really demoralization happening in the physical world. And I think that's something that hopefully, with the changing of the guard here, hopefully, that those things can be fixed, because the beautification and all of that stuff is very important. But I want to ask you guys this, because everyone likes to blame the Democrats, and I'm going to go out here on a limb. Everyone in the Republican Party doesn't like me anyway. Here's
I like you,
the
Vinny.
truth. Well, here's the truth from what the perspective I have is, we as Republicans have let this happen. We have run obstruction against our own people to the point where this has been allowed to happen because they have no competition at any of these state level positions. There are lots of crabs in the bucket. You guys referenced Carl DeMaio. So did David Collenberg. So how do we fix that? That's something I think that's important to address publicly, is how do we fix that going forward, where we can be civil about it, but still be competitive with one another? Do you guys have any ideas on how?
Can I go first? Because
please,
because I have to say, you are so right. I mean, the state desperately needs an alternative to the Democrats, and right now we are not being that alternative. We're still stuck at 24%. Let's hope we can pull it off tomorrow. I think a lot of Democrats are demoralized. Many people are going to vote Republican now for the reasons we've been talking about, but we've got to make a point of deciding we're not going to be stuck at 24% anymore, and we've got to talk civilly amongst ourselves. My view is we need to be talking civilly with the Democrats. We need to model what we want to see in them, which is civil discussion that doesn't demonize people and talks about the solutions that we need and pushes all that junk away that tries to shut conversations down. We know all those things that come at all of us, right? When we put forward a good, big idea, and David's got a lot of them, by the way, it's part of what I like about him,
Thank you,
right? We put forward a big idea and someone comes in and says it's racist, you're a Nazi, whatever it is, they shut it down. It is so not okay. So we've got to become the party that is the real alternative that can actually take over governance in the state. We're not there now.
Agreed. No, you're absolutely right. And to expand on that, we've kind of got these cults of personalities on both sides, where we say, oh, you're a Newsom person, so Newsom has personally destroyed the state of California personally all by himself, and Trump has destroyed America all by himself. And it removes the responsibility of Congress and the Senate, and it removes the responsibility of the Assembly and the Senate on the state level and the executive branch, because people don't know how to talk about government, which is why we talk about Doge and we don't talk about the state controller's office. It's literally their job to Doge California, to Doge government. And so it is demoralizing. And so when you look in your communities, when you look at your schools, when you look at the opportunities that there are for your children, when you go to the grocery store, the gas pump, it's exhausting, it's depleting, it's hard to keep up on it. And so when you find somebody who's willing to give of themselves and run for office, somebody like you, Merritt, or somebody like me who sees a problem and they're willing to step into the void, there is a massive guard that doesn't want to be changed out, where there's a lot of gatekeepers that are quite comfortable where they are, because the more that California loses, the more that it can be used as a piggy bank by the rest of the nation. If people see it as hopeless to invest in California candidates, then all of the congressional seats throughout America, they can all come to California and fundraise in Palm Springs, in LA, in Beverly Hills, in Santa Barbara, in the Bay Area, and then they can dip out to their competitive districts elsewhere. And so there's been sort of, I think, an intentional move to keep the California Republican Party as weak and impotent. And so in order to provide that alternative party platform, we need a group of people that are capable of delivering that message, capable of articulating it, capable of thinking it for themselves. But we also need the people that are going to vote for it, because the truth is we've shared around the slate with Collenberg, with Bianco, with Farren, with Serpa, and people love it. We share around the one with 8 people, where we add Sonia Shaw and Herb Morgan and Mike Gates and who am I missing right now? Don Wagner, and people love it. But the thing is that's the online people, the people who are informed, the people that are paying attention, the grassroots. They're going to support guys like us. But when you get to the establishment and you get to a lot of the boomers who are voting, I'm getting calls because they charge us $25 per word for the candidate statement. So I wrote a 7-word candidate statement. Instead of paying $6,250 for a full statement, I paid $150 for my candidate statement. And I assumed people would go to the website or people would go to my social media, and I would save my campaign $6,000. I would say 95% of the phone calls that I've gotten for the last 3 weeks are older people who want to call and ask me about my candidate statement, and they tell me I don't use the internet. And I get it, I understand it, but that's sort of, there's these 2 different eras, and that's when we look at something like Thomas Massey losing in Kentucky, losing his congressional seat, and then you look at the exit polls and you see that it was the boomer generation and older that voted Massey out. And it was everyone Gen X and younger that wanted to keep Thomas Massey, but ultimately who shows up to vote? And it's people that are boomers and older. It's predominantly old white people that show up to vote. And so it will be an interesting test tomorrow to see the difference between the online world, the grassroots, what we were feeling at convention, the energy that was behind the campaign. And then the 10,000-foot angle, can you just swoop in and buy it, issue a couple of voter guides, and be able to buy an election? And so, it will be an interesting case test.
Yeah, I want to say, Vinny, you were asking, I think you were getting at the idea, which is true, that a lot of the interests that have been holding back the kind of reform we need are also present on the Republican side.
Correct.
That's just the reality, right? In my area in insurance, there's no doubt about it, right? The insurance companies give on both sides of the aisle. And here's the thing about the existing insurance companies, is that, as you guys know, I was at Amazon for 11 years, right? So we did a lot of innovation. Every single thing that we did, we had to drag these companies forward, even though it was going to be good for them, right? Ebooks. We explained to the big publishers, you're going to make more money because you're not going to be printing these books. People are going to buy more books because it's going to be easier to buy, right? But even so, we had to drag them into the future. Why? Because the executives in those companies see their bonus lined up with their existing reality. They can see, if I just do this, I'm going to get my big bonus at the end of the year. And so these kind of changes that we need in insurance and elsewhere are disruptive to the companies.
Correct.
And the executives will resist them. And they give to Republicans as well as Democrats.
That's right.
To slow those changes down.
You're 100% right, Merritt. And it happens with organizations that they, in the insurance industry, in the high density housing industry, through APAC. There's a lot of different organizations where people say, oh, well, this is a group that believes in this. No, what they believe in is, keeping their power, not losing their power, and a lot of these people, their organizations, they really feel like they're fighting for their existence. And so, I guess really what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be 100% honest. which I always am anyway.
For the first time, David.
Yeah, for the first time ever. Everybody knows that I'm a brick thrower, I'm a grenade thrower, but I'm just going to go ahead and it's going to sound a little bit rough, but people have been asking me, what is your chances? How and I'm just going to be honest, how much of a possibility do you think that you're going to win? And I tell people probably about 10%, because I just got to be honest. And if I was just paying attention to online, I would say, brother, we got this locked up, 99%. You know what I mean? Like 99%. Are you kidding me? But I've been through this road before. I've been in this for 4 years. I've seen a couple of elections happen. And so I am very curious about what can happen at the 10,000 foot angle. Can they buy it? Because literally the person that I'm running against hasn't campaigned just about at all. And so the way that I look at it is I look at it like a movie, like the movie 300. You have the 300 Spartans. And, Leonidas tells Xerxes, he says, by the end of this, I'm going to show you that even gods can bleed. And then he has that moment where he throws the spear at Xerxes and he slices his face open. But then he gets impelled by 300,000 arrows, right? And Leonidas goes down and he dies. But he cuts Xerxes and he shows Xerxes that he can bleed. And then the guy telling the story later says, but then 10,000 Spartans came later and defended the West. And so when I look at the 10,000 Spartans moment, I look at guys like me, I look at guys like Merritt, I look at guys like Bianco, and I think that some of us came out of the goodness of our hearts, not guys like Collenberg, that where Collenberg literally had his farm getting dried up, and they were trying to go after his water rights, and he's got pre-1918 water rights, and they're trying to destroy his farm. He had to get involved. Merritt lost his home. He had to get involved. I'm looking at my family and these 5 kids that I want to leave a better state for, and I had to get involved. And so I look at it and I say, well, here we are at the end here, and maybe we're going to hold the pass, but maybe we're all going to go down with it this time. And maybe that's 2026. Maybe that's kind of what Fuentes was talking about with the whole it being, a lost cause. Republicans aren't doing Republican things when they get elected. Cast the votes into the fire. And so if we all go down, which I think is going to happen anyway, due to the Iran war, due to the economy, due to the fact of the cost of gas, due to the, no new wars, Iran, due to, we're going to shut down the Ukraine war before I get in there, and it's still been going on, due to the fact that your dollar has lost 25% of its purchasing power. That's real economic heartache, and that when people feel that, they don't vote for the people that they just voted for. And so I do think that we're going to be, it's going to be rough, if not tomorrow. I do think in the midterms in 2026, it's going to be very rough because the California Republican Party didn't do what it needed to do to paint itself its own identity as California Republicans so that we had something to stand for. We had an identity because Trump lost this state 60-40 3 times. And so, what were we going to stand for as California Republicans? And so, yes, Merritt and I, we might go down with it. We might squeak it off. And if we do, it's the biggest deal ever. And we pulled off a big, huge upset.
I intend for us both to win, David.
But if we go down, I think in 28, it's 10,000 Spartans. I think in 2028, all of a sudden we've got more people running for office than we know what to do with. We're not scrambling to find people to run for Congress and the Senate and the Assembly. Because the problem is, Merritt, my brother, and then I'm going to shut up because I tend to get a little bit long-winded and I want to pass it back to you. And I want to hear what you have to say about, intending for us to win. But we have a lot of very undesirable candidates running for Congress where I'm like, that was the best person that we had? We're looking at some of these people in the assembly. I'm like, that's the best? Really? That's the best person in that entire assembly district that we had. And so our recruiting effort was terrible. And so we're running candidates that are running 3-4 times saying we're a new Republican Party. We're going to deliver on something. And it's like, we're running a bunch of old candidates that have ran and lost 3, 4, 5 times. And so I'm just being realistic, brother. I'm hoping that we're not the 300 brave Spartans and that we're the 10,000. But right now, I'm feeling like the brave 300.
I like that movie too, and you know, and good one ultimately. So you know, it's an encouraging movie for us all, and I think if people don't do well tomorrow, any of us, then I totally agree we can still pull it off in the longer run. But no, I do want to be optimistic. I think I hear everything you're saying, David, but at the same time, politics is local.
Yep.
And people in California do understand that, as we've been discussing, we are not at all where we need to be, and it's Democrats that put us in this place. So there are opportunities for us, I think, especially at the state level here. So, you know, let's be optimistic, let's make it work, but also, look, I agree. And by the way, the three of you and what you're doing with this podcast, with all of your journalism, this is what is so important. So we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to build this so that it becomes obvious for people to say, of course I'm a Republican, right? There are things holding people back now. We've touched on some of those, David has. There's others too. We got to work on those. We got to take away those things that keep good people from, you know, saying I'm a Republican. I'm happy to say I'm a Republican, right? And then we got to build it up with the smart policies and the lack of demonization. We can get there. So this is, I agree with you, David. No matter what the outcome tomorrow, I hope it's going to be good. Even with a good outcome, we're still got a long road ahead of us, and we're going to roll into this, and we're going to build out what we're talking about here with a broader audience. That's what we have to do.
No, I agree with you. And I really do. I agree with you. I think that what's important is that we started a fire here, and that we've got a lot of things that are connected. I do think that, you know, things could
watch
be.
Watch out for the fire metaphors, David. I sometimes stumble into them too.
Fair enough.
I want to say we got a house on fire. It's like, no,
Yeah, okay, well, then we'll clean it up. I apologize, Merritt. That was very insensitive of me. But, you know, we've got 58 counties. We're 800 miles long and 450 miles wide. And if we believe that the digital door knock was well done, Merritt, Farren, David, Serpa, Collenberg, Bianco, we walk out with the W tomorrow. If it's still something that cannot be scaled digitally, and that we've got a lot of people voting that don't use the internet, you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Do you think
with all these races that aren't the top, right? I mean, people have focused obviously on the sheriff, on Hilton and others. You know, the reality is that no one's focused on the rest of our races. So, you know, how we get to them and how we need to get to them, how they make their decisions, I think the reality is a lot of us don't really know that. So, you know, I think the outcome could be anywhere, and I think we've done a great job with our digital door knockers and other things. You guys have done an awesome job reaching out to people, informing them, and, you know, I think we can get there. I really do.
Would you say a lot of the campaigning has been swayed a bit by big media like Fox News having somebody like Steve Hilton on all the time? So Steve Hilton's on, and suddenly everybody's looking at his golden ticket. And I know, David, Serpa, you were talking about Carl DeMaio earlier, and a lot of the candidates on the golden ticket, they're candidates that I typically wouldn't vote for. I wouldn't consider as faces of the Republican Party. I think for myself, and I other people that I've talked to going into the GOP convention, there were some candidates that I was really excited about, like yourself. And you get to the convention and there's commotion around David Serpa. It's exciting to be around him. You walk away from Serpa and it's just like this little chatter fest. You know, it's people just gossiping with each other. And then you go back to Serpa and everybody's around, everybody's talking, it's all empowering. And then, you know, the end of the convention comes, we go home, and then I find out that I'm a groyper or whatever rumors have spread about me. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not who I am. But it's the people that are on Fox News, to me, that get all this great attention. But at the convention, they wasn't that. At the convention, they were boring. At the convention, they had their parties, and it was an empty room. At the convention, they had their booth, and nobody was around it.
Yeah.
And I think this goes, maybe Carina could talk about this after you guys answer, but this goes to when you're there at the convention, the people that are actually voting, the delegates, the associate delegates, at least those that are involved, that's the grassroots of it all. Those are the ones that go door to door. Those are the ones that go out on the weekends to car shows, to move the Republican Party's initiatives. But then here we are, June 1st, going into June 2nd, and we're kind of like, are we really losing to the boring people that nobody was excited about?
That's because all the people that are claiming that they're going out and knocking doors and doing all this stuff aren't doing it. And you get a lot of these different groups that say, oh, we're the Republican this, or we're the Republican that, we're Republican whatever. And they just fracture the Republican Party instead of being, we're Republicans, so we're all working together. We're the Hispanic Republicans, we're the Republican veterans, we're the Republican women. It's just fractured, we're the Republican Assembly. And so we've divided ourselves, which makes us very easy to conquer. And then you get all of these people, there's the small minds talk about people, big minds talk about ideas. We need more big minds. We need more big minds working together, talking about ideas. And when we're hanging out, when it's Vinny and it's Gio and it's Serpa at the convention, we're talking about ideas. We're talking about how we can win, how we can get out ahead of it. But I'm getting to a point to where it's like, I grew up in the gangster rap, 90s, when it was grunge, it was new core, it was, we were just harder people at that point. And, Eminem said, I am what you say I am. And I'm kind of at a point to where everyone's like, you're a racist, homophobic, misogynistic, groiper, whatever. And I'm like, okay, sure, that's me. That's me. You caught me. That's who I am, I guess. Because I'm just getting so tired of these games of like guilty by association, calling someone a name, and then that name meaning that they're wrong and they're disqualified. You're a groiper. Okay, ultimately, what do groipers stand for the most part? And it's nationalism. And I am a nationalist. And, has Nick Fuentes said some
David,
racist things? Yeah,
I got to say, because the Republican convention was very expensive. I just got to say for the folks that weren't there, the rumors that are spreading on X, that are spreading on Instagram and Facebook about David Serpa's group being full of anti-Semitic, blah, 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 blah. It's just not true. I mean, the group that followed David Serpa around, there were Hispanics, there were white guys, there were Jewish people, there was a black kid. There wasn't a lot of black people at the convention, but there was at least one or two black kids that were following you. I mean, it was a melting pot following you, and it didn't make sense. I mean, even the kids from Jennifer Hawk's table, that's her first name, right, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Jennifer Hawk's table were like, wanted to be part of it.
Yeah,
and I just thought like, wow, this is overwhelming. I'm looking at Serpa, I'm looking at Chad Bianco, and then you look at everybody else, and it's like, nobody else is getting. Oh, Sonia Shaw had a lot of attention too, but there was a lot of candidates that just didn't have the attention that you guys were getting. And I don't know. Like I said, is the rumors that were going? Was it jealousy? Were agreements being made? I don't know. I don't want to spread rumors. It just didn't make sense to me.
Well, yeah, I think there's the name calling is just totally unacceptable. I mean, weren't we done with that in elementary school? I didn't like it then. We should. That's got to stop. But I think you're right, Gio. I mean, my perception was that when you get into the world of the convention, it becomes its own world. It's its own ecosystem, which is not the ecosystem that the citizens of California need. It's just not. It's much more about, well, who is this person who's pulling certain strings here or there going to want me to do? And what's in it for me if I do what this person wants? Too much of that. And I saw a lot of people who were kind of like, well, we're kind of going this way. And as opposed to just saying, talk to me, tell me what you want to do, and let me look at you as a candidate. Let me look at David and say, you're the best one for this role, so we're going to get behind you. It doesn't matter what some other gatekeeper wants me to believe. I didn't see enough people there just saying, I'm going to be an independent thinker and do what I need to do for the citizens of California. I saw too much thinking about the internal ecosystem and what does it mean for me, and am I going to be a favored delegate or something next year, right? Like, what's my internal party position plum that I'm going to get? Just not what we need.
Merritt,
it's like the true, genuine, capturing that audience, that Californian, not speaking to every Californian. I feel like there's a huge disconnect with the California GOP at this moment with Californians. When they're pretty much not, they basically haven't done very much for us within the party, and then so there's nothing to translate out to the rest of the Californians. And the one thing that we did see, like you said, we saw everybody surrounding David Serpa. There was that excitement. There is a new generation coming into the California GOP, and I feel like the California GOP doesn't know what to do with them.
Correct.
They're at
Which
a
is why they
loss.
want to ban them.
Yes. They're at a loss, and it's growing. There's younger people getting involved, younger people understanding, how politics works. And that's so exciting to see. And we need to focus on how we can message to them and how we can embrace them to come into the party. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we kind of fallen off on as collectively as Republicans. And we, I'm out in the road. There's a lot of undecided voters right now. So that's one thing we have to focus. I was in Bakersfield Saturday, and a lot of them were undecided. They were coming to our booth asking us questions about all the different, candidates that we had on our table. And so we collectively, as Republicans or grassroots, we need to really focus on how we get that message out to the everyday Californian. We're in our little, political bubble, and we see it, we hear it, we're all about it. But when you're out in the real world talking to everyday business owners, everyday parents, everyday, neighbors, they're clueless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Clueless to everything that's happening. And if we had more emphasis to reaching out to those individuals instead of putting a lot of focus into the same people, preaching to the same choir over and over and over, we wouldn't have these problems that we have now. And for me, it's one of my main focus is kind of building this strong coalition, because we're all built from different avenues. One of the analogies I like to use is we're looking at a beach ball. You're looking at white, you're looking at yellow, we're looking at red. We're all looking at the same damn beach ball, aren't we? Mm-hmm. But we need to learn how to come together and make that happen so that we can reach that messaging all around. And that's one of the things that, the other side does very well. Mm-hmm. And we've been here year after year, election after election, trying to figure out how do we do that. And we're really missing that mark.
Agreed.
And grassroots is the way. We have no funding. We have no one telling us what to do, but we're here listening directly from those neighbors, from those parents, from, those families, those business owners. And we're trying to get that message up to those on top of the Republican Party. And are they listening? No, because
I have to say,
over and over.
Yeah, I'd love to think that we could, bring the change you've just articulated through the party, but I think we've got to realize that we've got to make an effort without looking to the party to achieve that for us. You're absolutely right.
Which is sad.
By the way, these kind of things, these little things that have kept people apart, that are still a focus of so many people in the party, that wouldn't be great if the state was all in a great shape, right? But it's not. The basics, and if we just emphasize that and show people that we're the ones with the skills, with the creativity and the straight down the middle, good sense, common sense about how to govern, they'll come our way. David, you're back on. David Collenberg, you're back on.
Good to see you, David.
Don't get your hopes up. I'm trying to be.
I always have my hopes up. Or
It's
you mean
good
our
to
hopes
see
that
your noggin on here.
connection will last? What are our hopes about what?
So, Carina,
before.
you had mentioned young people, and I
Yes.
really think that that's at the heart of what we've got going on. You know, for a party that, you know, we claim Charlie Kirk as our own. You know, we've immortalized Charlie Kirk, and we've made a hero out of him, and as we should. What an incredible human being he was. But the truth is he championed young people, young Christian, conservative, Republicans, predominantly young men. And when I called these same people that the Republican Party, we need 10,000 Charlie Kirks. And there was this sort of cry, this rallying cry amongst conservatives. And then when I call predominantly Christian, conservative, you know, Republican men, and I ask them to come to convention, it gets back to the party and they say that, oh, David Serpa's trying to infiltrate the party. He's trying to create a Trojan horse. You know, of who? Of Christian conservative young men. And so the thing is at the end of the day, I think we're all getting very frustrated because we have young people, we have veterans, we have Hispanics, we've got, black people and all these different types of people where you would come into the party and you would say, I am a college professor, right, Vinny? Or I am a young Hispanic guy, or I am a veteran, or whatever. I want to run for office. And there's no excitement. They're like, hey, listen, we want you to go knock doors for a congressional candidate who's been selling you out for the last 30 years. Hey, can you go gather signatures for a proposition that's ultimately going to get shot down? Or what, we're just like, hey, can you go stand in the background of this photo for this politician who's selling you out? And so it's like, yes, we want young people, but just don't run for office. Don't actually get involved. Right. And so it's sort of this double standard. And, and there is no other alternative. There's no alternative party. There's no libertarian party that we could go into where the infrastructure is dialed away. We can't start a new party. If you want to save the state of California, you have to save the California Republican Party. There's no other way to do it.
That's absolutely right.
Here's the thing is with, the young people, like you, Merritt, we lost something. Like my children lost a right. So that's how I became involved. And I feel like our young youth is at a loss. They're at a loss where they don't have an opportunity that they've seen before, that we've embraced from the 90s or from the 80s or before that. And so they're at a loss, and they're wanting and yearning for that. And I think that we need to collectively, as Republicans and conservatives and grassroots, really hone into that. And so I feel like for your guys' seats that you are running for, how can you appeal and offer an opportunity for our young youth? Because this is their future.
So look, we got to be successful tomorrow. If David can, if Collenberg and the sheriff can, then we've got a platform, and this is going to be a big part of my mission, right? We've got, for so many people, they have these biases against the Republican Party that keep people away. It's not the party of compassion, bullshit, but we've got to articulate that. We've got to show them that we are the party of compassion. We might have a different approach from policy perspective, right? We've got a different approach about how to get there, but we're as much about compassion, if not more so, than the other folks, right? So we've got to take away those things that right now hold people back from feeling comfortable to being associated with us, quite frankly. And then, yes, we've got to show them, we've got to show them the optimism which we need here, right? And to your point, one of the things that concerns me most about where we've left young people today, my boys are 14 and 15, right, is that we have taken away a lot of the optimism about where America's going. We've rewritten our history to be a history of not the good people we are, but that we're somehow bad people, right? And that's not healthy for anyone. It's, there are literally studies that show that when people feel good about themselves, they're more productive citizens. They make more money, they cost less, they don't just cost less for the state, they contribute to the states. We've got to empower people and show the young folks, folks of every age, the reasons to be optimistic. It's so important.
Yeah, it's hard to have hope for the future when you have shame in your history and when you have shame in your identity. And it's been systemic, and it's been, an approach that we have to have a counter approach to. We have to sort of get on the offensive. And so when we talk about being compassionate, when I talk about being a compassionate conservative, it's like, ha, 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 like those don't exist anymore. When I talk about engaging in trickle-down economics, people laugh about it because we kind of have two parties that serve the billionaire class. Mm-hmm. And so what can we do for young people? We could give them a working class, middle class, lower class, blue collar party that they could stand up behind that stands for real things. Water and energy drives down the cost of everything else, A. B, education makes opportunities available for people. We used to have a free college and university system for the people that live here, and their parents had paid taxes here for their entire lives up until 1968. Our free college and university system was the best university system in the world. Now that it is no longer publicly enjoyed, but now we have immigrants enjoying it from other countries on visas. We have the elites from other states enjoying their party schools in California. We no longer are serving the youth that grew up here through their education. And the other thing is housing, giving people those opportunities to build and develop their own housing again. There's a lot of different ways in which the manufacturing is being, homes are being designed, they're being built off-site and then assembled on-site through different housing kits and packages, through Amazon, through Tesla, through the TikTok shop, where people are buying homes that are 2-bedroom starter kits for $15,000, $30,000, and then getting a piece of land for $30,000. And now you're buying off a home for $45,000. But do you know who's not making that possible? Sacramento. Sacramento isn't making that possible. And why are they not making that possible? Well, look, I'm a real estate agent. I'm just going to call a thing a thing. There's a lot of money in the lobbies around housing. In high density housing, there's a lot of money in those lobbies. In fact, the only treasurer debate that was held was through a housing lobby, through a housing nonprofit. There's a lot of money in the real estate lobby. There's a lot of money in the lending lobby. And so the thing is financial and moneyed interests, just kind of like what Merritt was saying earlier, they benefit the most by the system being the way that it has been for a long time. But now we're getting to a point to where even they aren't benefiting. The parasites have outgrown their host. And so we have to get back to a point to where we're protecting the people who have to travel around this monopoly board and not just the people that own the board. Because you got to remember, and in fact, one of my favorite comments in the chat is from our wild one who's running for city council out there. Lucero?
Mayor.
Rob Lucero. He said it takes 3%. Because the thing is what people forget is when people have no hope in the future, when the average person who, for the first time, if the average person is getting married and having their first kid at over 28 years of age or older, 100% of those cultures have dissolved into some sort of revolution, some sort of anarchy. When people don't own Main Street, when they don't own their homes, when they don't have a family that they can depend on, that they need to not while out and get violent in order to protect, there's no hope. And if there's no hope, you don't have to worry about getting 51%. You only need 3%. And that's what we don't want to see. Sheriff Bianco, on that note.
He is here on the note of
Welcome,
safety
Sheriff.
and security. Perfect timing.
Good to see you, Sheriff.
You too. Sorry I'm late. It's one of those days. Got to, I guess, fight down to the last. Don't stop before the finish line, I guess.
Yeah, I was telling my friends, you go hard in the paint. I know you're a baseball player. I'm a basketball player. But you go hard in the paint. That's why I couldn't continue to run against you. I was like, I can't go as hard as the sheriff. The sheriff is a wild one.
You got to do it.
Well, you're doing great, Sheriff. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
We're proud of you, and we're looking forward to victory tomorrow for you and for the rest of us.
Oh, thank you very much. That's for sure. I mean, we're all doing everything we can to save this dang state from the insanity.
We've been talking a lot about that. So you've got the floor now, Sheriff.
Well, no, I'm glad I was able to get home in time. My phone was dead. We had it in the charger. I was going to try and get on in the car, and it worked out perfect. And then David just texted me and gave me a reminder that you guys were still on. So it worked out good. I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing. I think that what we're finding, even especially just since this campaign, is there's a much bigger revival, I think, amongst people that are tired of the direction that we're going, and the just straight insanity and the craziness, that the beliefs, that the evilness that we're being, whether it's being forced on our kids or just in the state in general. I think we're in a, I wish it would have happened sooner, but you can't kick a gift horse in the mouth. I guess you got to just take with what we've got and make sure that no matter what the outcome of this is, the momentum keeps going, and we keep working on change to make sure we're all doing the right thing, and we've got to do everything we can to, and there's so many.
I'll tell you
so
what,
many
Sheriff,
things we can and should be fighting for, whether it's family, God, all of the above, our state, our country. And we have taken things for granted for so long. I think a little bit of apathy, and everything about standing up and doing the right thing, and fighting against the idiocy of saying that we can't have men anymore. And it's I'm glad you guys are doing this. We need to just make sure that it expands so much that you can't be ignored.
Well, there's a lot of things that we should be fighting. A lot of common sense things, like you talk about. If we don't have physical freedom, what sort of freedom do we have? If we don't have financial freedom, what sort of freedom do we have? But unfortunately, in this election cycle, we've ended up having to fight with a lot of Republicans. And I'm seeing a lot of this systemic issues within the press, where you get a lot of people who are all of a sudden repeating the same talking points about the polls. And, Spencer Pratt is behind in the polls, and Sheriff Bianco is behind in the polls. And when you look at this sort of stuff, weren't we hearing that about Trump, that Trump was behind in the polls? What they're trying to do is they're trying to discourage us from getting out and voting tomorrow. And they're using the tools that they have at their disposal, which is very much the mainstream media and a lot of these influencers which have been purchased.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we have to know that. And I mean, this started decades ago with the military using psychological warfare, and then they realized that they can use it for their benefit too. And that it's nothing but a psychological ploy to your psyche, to either get you to want to be on the winning team, or oh my God, I'm afraid of two Democrats, so I have to vote for that person. And it truly is just a psychological warfare, and it is orchestrated. And it's when you look at us as Republicans, and you go back to during the Trump and Biden administration, or the battle that they were going through, and that whole orchestration of the media all saying the same thing, and Republicans talking so much crap about it and saying how fake it is, and now it's the same thing, and and we're doing it. And it's
That's
like,
right.
oh my gosh, it's like you just don't get it.
Republicans are doing all the same things that we accuse Democrats of doing. We're doing the same thing, where we're sort of buying into the media establishment talking points. We're buying into these narratives about the poll. We're discrediting people and calling people names instead of talking about their ideas. We're saying, oh, you're a Nazi, you're a white supremacist, you're a Christian nationalist. It's all sort of this nudge theory, which of course Steve Hilton was instrumental in developing in the UK, of getting people to just sort of pick up on things in the social media and then start parroting those things. And one of the biggest things that I think it was a huge disservice, and I was telling Steve not to do this when he did it, was I told him, don't attack Sheriff Bianco The best way to beat a 60-40 vote is in the primary by splitting all these weak Democratic candidates between each other. They don't have anybody. Steyer, Porter, Mahan, all of these guys, Villaraigosa, there's no one for them to be excited about. And for a long time, I was saying the best, in fact, one of the reasons why I dropped out of the governor's race and joined the treasurer's race was it looked possible to lock the Democrats out of the general by having 2 Republicans win in the primary, because you were winning in every single poll until Steve started attacking you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That's this campaign, and really after Trump won, we should have walked away with this election.
Correct.
Everything about the Democrats in the entire country was just in shambles. It definitely was in California. I mean, we're still seeing it, and we started eating our own. It was so bizarre to me that Trump won, and now we're not fighting against the Democrats anymore because they're all beat down. So now let's all fight with each other and let's try and destroy each other. This whole thing with start calling each other white nationalists and Zionists and coming up whatever. And it's like, are you kidding me? It's like, where did all of this come from? It's just bizarre to me.
I couldn't agree more. And look, to your point, Sheriff, we have an opportunity because people do see the bad state that we are in. They're ready to move off of Democrats, and yet we've not stepped forward in the way that would capture their enthusiasm, right?
Yeah.
So we've got to do that.
We needed an alternative party platform.
I'm happy to hear you say it too before you join. That's what we've been talking about, right? Hopefully we will have victory tomorrow, but we're going to push forward, right? Victory or not. That's what we've got to build on. We've got to build this party up. As David said very articulately earlier, that we're the only hope because there is no other party, right? And it's not realistic to think another one can be created. So
Well, exactly what you said, Sheriff. We should have put the system on trial. We should have put these Democrats on trial and just completely ran against Democrats up and down the state.
Right.
But we needed a party platform that we could get behind. We needed an establishment that could actually get out and support these candidates. But we also needed some capable candidates that could bring that message across the finish line. And unfortunately, there wasn't enough of an organization on the statewide level that got out and did that. And in fact, I feel like from the statewide level, there's been a lot of animosity that's been harbored. And it sort of set the Republican Party back. Just like you said, as soon as Trump won, we should have been locking shields. It should have been all about winning on a federal level, but then we should have been about going after California. I was excited about the task force that was supposed to be headed up by J.D. Vance, by our vice president. I would have loved to have seen that come to more of a fruition because this was our opportunity here in 2026.
Well, look, my community freaking burned down. You talk about an opportunity, and that is very present. Altadena too, right? And all the other fires, it is very present in people's minds still. You want an opportunity to make it clear to people that we're in a state of failure here. That's the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So you got any predictions for tomorrow, Sheriff?
No, this is my fourth. This is my fourth election, and when when it comes down to it, and as a competitor and as a longtime athlete, we're at the end, and it's like, you know what? Right now, it's completely out of my control. I can do nothing now. It's out of my control. And when you're talking about being competitive, it's like, man, you're supposed to fight till the end. You're supposed to run till the end. You're supposed to play till that last out, whatever the case may be. And so, all you can do is do interviews tomorrow and hope you convince a few more people to come out. But in the end, it's beyond your control. I think we're only at a little bit shy of 4 million votes, but more than likely, 2 million, 3 million, hopefully even 4 million come in tomorrow. So it's the whole thing can change depending on somebody's attitude when they wake up in the morning, and you just got to keep going to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm kind of feeling the same way. I've also, I've seen it from the 10,000 foot angle before. And, I was feeling, we were one of the last 10 House races to be called in the country last time. And my election was called almost 3 weeks after Election Day. And so I just want it to be done tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just want an answer tomorrow.
Well, let me give you a prediction. It's not going to be done tomorrow. There's no way in California it's going to be done tomorrow.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, completely fair. Yeah, so Sheriff, we appreciate you jumping on with us. We know that you were at the church right before coming out here and jumping on. We were talking about, before you jumped on, that it should have been a slam dunk for us. But now here we are in the midterms, and it's looking like it could potentially be a bloodbath. And so we're looking at this and we're thinking, is this 2026 going to be a brave 300 last stand? And then 2028 is going to be 10,000 Spartans showing up for the West? Or are we going to pull a couple across the finish line here in November? And it's hard to make these sort of predictions. And just like you said, here at the 11th hour, you could have put it in neutral. You could have put it in coast for the rest of the way, but it says a lot about the kind of campaign that you ran, that here you are at 10 o'clock at night, the night before Election Day, and here you are with Latino Free Minds and the Lincoln Club. You're a good man, Sheriff.
Hey, not Lincoln Club, Jefferson Club.
Jefferson Club, my bad.
Yes.
I sold you out,
Yeah.
Vinny.
Founding father, we're good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I wanted to say this, Sheriff Bianco. I really appreciate I've been the fly on the wall the whole time for the past year or so, and I really like the campaign you've run from the beginning. Nice, even, not slanderous at all, very informed and very straight to the point. And I think a lot of people that I've talked to really appreciate that about you, and they love that about you. And I want to say that you're a true small R Republican. Everything you're talking about, it's decentralization, it's pushing power back down to the county level. And I just want to say thank you, because that's something in my classroom that I'm trying to teach to these students. This is what the founding principles were of this country, and we've lost that for this pomp and circumstance of this mainstream media of I'm going to do this, that, or the other, and I wrote a book about it. So you're a man of doing, and I would say the other guy's a man of theory, which I myself am from time to time. But I want to say thank you, because a lot of my students, a lot of the Turning Point kids that I've been involved with have all gravitated towards you. And,
right.
and I want to say thank you, because I feel like even if things don't go well, you've created this revival in California because of how you've approached this. And I think that's going to be a good thing long term. And I wanted to say thank you for that.
I just want to echo that. I completely agree. And I also think, David, you represent the same thing. I like to think that I do. It's just straight down the middle, common sense, working for the people, and none of this manipulation that we see with the other candidates that feels like they've got other things on their mind as their priorities. We know what your priorities are, Sheriff. David's too, mine, Collenberg's as well. Serve the state, serve the people, keep it honest. That's it.
I've just enjoyed the messaging. I really enjoyed it, because I remember 4 years ago when we were speaking at the same event, and it was kind of a competition. Who could speak longer? Sheriff would speak. I'd speak for an hour. Sheriff would speak for an hour and a half, and people wouldn't be getting up. They loved it. But now I hear you answering questions in 15, 20, 30 seconds, and I didn't know if you were going to get there. But now the messaging is very solid. And also, you never went on the attack with other Republicans. You're the only Republican that kept that 11th commandment, which I don't keep that 11th commandment. I say Reagan's not God. The 11th commandment isn't in the Bible. Hilton's short, bald, and British in a red coat, and I'm throwing all these these grenades everywhere. But that's because somebody else set the tone. But also, calling Ted Cruz a hoe and things like that. I know that I'm not always on the up and up. But you're an example, Sheriff.
Oh, thank you. I have my issues too.
Yeah. It's also been great seeing you with a lot of the mainstream, a lot of the media people that we really enjoy. Andy Frizella, Patrick Bet David. You got out there into the manosphere, Sheriff.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We were happy that we got to do that. I'll tell you, Andy's probably my favorite. That dude is a solid guy that with an absolute heart of gold that cares more about his employees than he cares about himself. I That was probably my favorite by far.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think Andy Frizella, that must have been a quite the tour out there. Anything, if you're looking back over the last, year and a half or so, couple of years, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I don't know if I've thought about it that much yet. I don't think so. I think we adjusted as we were going along, as we were seeing that, maybe we could get better out of certain aspects of it. So I don't know if I would do something differently. Especially after you saying that I kept everything, on the up and up.
Yeah.
There are some times that I think I wish I would have not, wish it not bit my tongue as much as I did and just let it go.
Just come into the gutter with Serpa a little bit.
Yeah.
Let your hair down a little bit, Sheriff.
And I don't know if I would have, but I definitely thought about that a little bit at the time. But as of yet, I haven't down and really thought about the whole thing and what if something went wrong or where everything went wrong. I thought we were pretty comfortable and we thought we were doing the right things and things were working out. We were getting everywhere we were going. People were reaching out to us. We didn't have to search for places to be or anything. So it's you can always learn, but I'll have to sit down after and really dive into it and see.
What would happen was the campaign manager was like, "Pull it."
Look,
You gave
He's on with who?
Yeah,
He's on with who?
I think all of us have seen how genuine the sheriff's support is, right?
Denise was like, "Hey, listen."
And you guys
Sheriff."
referenced that. You guys referenced that even at the convention, right? It's
Yeah.
heartfelt. It's true enthusiasm, which is you don't see elsewhere.
I mean,
Denise
I'll
was like,
say
"We
this.
made it this far. Don't let Serpa slip you up." Pull the plug. Because I was gonna say, what was some of that gutter stuff that you wish you had said, Sheriff?
Yeah, could you hit me in the DM with that? I'll throw it out there.
No, spit it, man. 10 o'clock, night before the election. It doesn't matter who picks up and runs with the story at this point. You might as well say it.
Well,
one of the big-
my view is the groundswell of support is there. So I remain optimistic because I think this is exactly his run is exactly the kind of run that the polls do a lousy job of assessing.
Agreed.
That's the reality, right?
People
They
who
really
vote
do.
for Sheriff Bianco work.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are like, when I say that, people who vote for Sheriff Bianco work. I had somebody say, well, we're not Democrats. I'm like, yeah, but the only people who aren't voting for Sheriff Bianco are either retired or like unemployed. I don't think that there's a bunch of workers going out there and, leaving their blue collar job and going out and marking that ballot for Steve Hilton.
Fox
Yeah,
News
most of this-
watchers.
Most of this votes will
exactly.
come after 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. The
I
F
think
word.
you're right.
That Pfizer commercial watchers.
The Pfizer commercial watchers, the little blue pill commercial watchers.
If we make it all the way to the end and we win, I'd like to be hired by Chad Bianco to stand behind him like the guys on Key and Peele. Whenever he wants to say something, I just want to spit it out. Those bad guys at Latino Free Minds to just cut in with that commercial. Serpa, you said it earlier. Every time I see the logo, I think of that noise that comes on. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, we could hear you, Sheriff.
We can still hear the sheriff. Yeah, every Friday when he's on the steps of the Capitol, just have the TVs on there, and when he wants to really hit them, just have the Latino Free Minds logo pop on, and that's when all the cameras are going to turn on.
We were just saying that Denise was probably like, cut the camera.
I think my battery is going low, so it goes into low battery mode. Because I can hear you guys fine.
Okay.
Good.
Awesome.
Well, is there any gutter stuff that you wanted to say, Sheriff? Anything?
No, the only thing I was saying is just if anything, I wish I would have fought back. I wish I would have tried to expose Hilton more instead of letting it happen organically. I mean, we all know that he's a fraud, but the whole Fox News thing just bought off on him, and the media. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, Sheriff, my last question, and then I'd love to get some questions from Vincent and Gio, and then hey, maybe even just let you enjoy your night here before the election. But what's the high point of your election? What did you enjoy from the last couple of years out there on the road?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was the same thing that really happened in my sheriff election. That it just went on a massive stage and a massive scale. Our state is absolutely beautiful, and the people are amazing. I mean, we've met people that we know now are going to be lifelong friends, and it's building a friendship outside of a campaign. And we would have never met those people without this, and so, or even been to the places in California. So that the people are probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the people, and look, the physical beauty of our state is extraordinary. It's one of the things I thank COVID for, because, I was out camping with my sons, and we went all across the state taking routes that I think few ever take. And I was just constantly amazed at the diversity of the beauty and the quality of the beauty. It's extraordinary. We live in an extraordinary place.
All right,
What was one of the most beautiful places you visited this past election that you and Denise were just like mesmerized by and would want to go back and spend some time there?
It's a lot of it was drive. I mean, we were constantly driving, but driving between like Central Valley and Central Coast, going through the hills, even up north, going north of Sacramento, and heading in toward like Butte County, and then into over toward Humboldt or something, through those mountains and the rolling hills and cows on the side. It's like this isn't even California anymore. Coming from Southern California, where it's all rocks and dirt and palm trees, it was just a beautiful state. I mean, Monterey, all through the whole Monterey Valley there, north and south, you just can't beat it. I mean, we just have a beautiful state.
Oh, we do.
Agreed.
So worth fighting for. That's for sure.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. We should be what we once were, which is a place that everybody wants to come, right? The people who are ready to work and create and build, this is where they want to be, and this is where they can achieve what they want to achieve. That's what we got to be.
Well, Vinny, Gio?
I just want to say a statement before we leave, and I'll allow Vinny to have the last statement before we close out in prayer. For the people that are watching, and will probably watch this into tomorrow, because Chad Bianco's name is on it, David Serpa's name is on it, Merritt Farren's name is on it, and David Collenberg's name is on it. So I assume that people are just going to be watching this, walking into the polls tomorrow. As you're in there, don't lean into the stupid calls from people like Steve Hilton or Carl DeMaio saying, "Oh, we're going to have two Democrats running in the general." You know what? When you walk in there, you need to vote with your values. If for some reason it went in completely the wrong direction and it was two Democrats, at least we send a message. You don't step in the national level or the big media that stepped in and got involved. You can't do that here in California. It doesn't go well with the grassroots movement that has been working hard and pushing real fighters here in California. It's like I mentioned earlier when I was at the GOP convention. You can tell who the grassroots movement was behind. The people that were there, they were all crowded around Chad Bianco. They were all crowded around Sonia Shah. They were all crowded around David Serpa. It was real. when you looked at the table, like at Steve Hilton's, when you look at some of the other candidates, it was dead, it was boring, and that's kind of how it is when you go out and see them in person, until the lights come on and the event turns on, and suddenly he comes out talking with this big voice, yelling over everybody and shouting out names, and people go, "Oh my God, he said the local hero's name," and that's all good and dandy, but when the reality is, when you hear somebody like David Serpa, when you hear somebody like Merritt, and when you hear somebody like Chad Bianco, you can listen to them a year ago and you can listen to them today, and they're saying the same thing. Why are they saying the same thing? It's because those are the things that they really want to fight for. They haven't changed. You can look at all the Democrats. You can look at Steve Hilton, who has said he's not a Republican. I don't know. But, they, along the way, have said things like, I actually like what Chad Bianco said. I actually stole that for myself. I heard Katie Porter say it. I have heard Steve Hilton say it. They say those things. But Chad Bianco, I watched a video of his from 15 months ago where he was sitting in a church. And if they asked him the same question they asked today, it was the same answer, not word for word, but along the same lines. And that's something that I appreciate. It's something that people have to pay attention to when they go in there to vote tomorrow. And I assume it's going to be a lot of people, right?
And just remember this whole golden ticket stuff. There's no tickets in California. You pick the people that you want to work with, and all of these people that are running in the executive branch, if we get in there, they're going to work together. And so just, go in, vote your conscience. Don't be talked out of voting for the people that you think are actually going to work. Because the thing is the most important thing is that you vote for people that are going to get to work on day one, that actually, have the ability to get to work. We don't want to stack participation trophies in the Republican Party anymore. We really need to start
and that have the skills, right? That have the skills and the singular purpose. That's what the sheriff has. That's what David has. That's what I like to think I have, and Collenberg as well. Super simple, right? That's what we need. And the Democrats have not been doing that, right? We're huge contrast to that.
I guess the last thing I'd like to close it out with, Sheriff, is what is your elevator pitch for the people who haven't yet decided?
Especially right now, it's just don't let somebody else pick who you want as your governor. I mean, that's your one of the most cherished things we should have in a free country is the right to vote and vote for who we want to represent us. And to allow somebody else to manipulate you or convince you, or I've heard people, I get arguments on social media where they'll say, I was all behind you and everything else, but now I'm going to have to vote for Steve. And it's like, well, you're the reason why we lose all the time. Because if we would vote for our values, vote for our principles, and take that American right of voting for our government seriously, then we would be able to elect the right people. And so right now, that's all it is you need to vote your conscience, you need to vote your values, and don't allow somebody else, whether it's the media or a politician, or you never know who's behind the poll or if it's even real. It was funny, somebody sent me a poll tonight, and it looks just like every other poll, and he made the numbers how he wanted it to be, and it's like, yeah, anybody can do that.
That's right.
He posted it on his own social media, and people are like, yeah, these are the real polls. And he's like, I just made those numbers up. But the bottom line is they could be too. And I'm not saying they are, but why would you want to be manipulated by somebody else and just go along with it? You talk about leaders and followers. Don't be a follower, be a leader. We need a whole bunch of leaders standing up and to save our state. And that's my final message is don't be manipulated and conned by somebody else into doing something that you wouldn't normally do. Stand on your values, stand on your beliefs, and stand up for yourself.
Absolutely, well said, especially because a lot of these polls, the sample size is 1,000 people.
Right.
And I keep telling people, Bianco voters are working. They've got jobs. They've got kids that they got to pick up from school and take to practice. It's not a lot of the people who are just sitting at home all day, watching Fox News in their, their golden years, which I'm not taking anything away from them either. But all of the working class people who are in sort of the prime of their lives that are, conservative at all, Republican at all, everyone that I talk to is voting Bianco. So it will be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow. I think it will be quite the case study coming out of it to see how candidates like Collenberg do, who really, he took digital door knocking to another level. He was able to reach millions of people online, versus, people who got in the car and drove across those 58 counties and those 800 miles and saw every city. So it will be very interesting to see how everything plays out tomorrow. But I'm glad that you carved out some time for us tonight, Sheriff.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys letting me on.
Yeah, are you going to pray us out?
Let's do it.
Yeah, thank you all for joining today, and I appreciate Vincent. Thank you for arranging all of this.
Well done, Vinny.
It was very much needed.
Long live the pink bear.
Yeah.
Long live the Jeff.
Well, let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come before your throne. We thank you, Lord, for this day. We thank you for the blessing and all the excitement and fun that we've had in the last few months and the last year during these campaigns that we've seen here in California. And our guests today have been on these journeys that they've gone through, Lord. We thank you for keeping them safe. We thank you for all of the people that they've come across and made a difference with. I ask you, Lord, as we continue into this next day and into the days and weeks to come, as the votes are tallied up, I ask you, Lord, for the last few people that are going to come to the polls, to give them the discernment to be able to go in there and vote for the person that is going to be best for them, for the person that it fits and aligns best with their values, not because somebody in San Diego said they should vote for higher polls, or because somebody at Fox News or somebody at some other media station said this or that. Those things don't matter, Lord. The things that matter are the things that align us with you, Jesus. We also ask you, Lord, as we continue the most important thing for us as the residents of California, you give us the candidates that are able to provide the change and the future that we need, that is going to guide us closer to you. In Jesus' name we pray. We thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you guys so much for joining.
It's a heck of a way to end it, you guys.
Thank you.
It's been a long election cycle. It's been a heck of a fight. I'm honored to be finishing it out here with the five of you.
Me too. I can't think of a more terrific way to finish this out.
And David, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God.
Absolutely.
Rebellion to tyrants, obedience to God, indeed. And hey, listen, maybe tomorrow night we're all celebrating some big upsets, and we're getting ready to fit for phase 2. But this primary was a heck of an experience. And Gio, I'm grateful that you came down to convention. Vinny, you were such a huge part of the campaign. It was, we had to show them that we're all willing to show up. And I think that no matter what happens, we all made a statement to the California Republican Party at convention that there is a new generation here ready to step up and grab those reins. So if you boomers are not going to pass the torch, we're going to take it.
Yeah, we're
going to bring even the boomers over. They're going to join us.
Yeah, more and more boomers are excited about it. And honestly, I joke around about it, but the people that cheer the loudest when I say that we need to bring in a new generation of leaders, it's the boomers. They know.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
But well said,
right.
Matt. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks, Gio. Thanks, Carina. Thanks, Vinny. Good to see you, Merritt.